Arts and Adventure summits the airwaves. This is the Ogden Arts and Adventure Show. I am R. Brandon Long, along with
Todd Oberndorfer. Let's make this quick. We got to get to some drinks here.
I know we are hosts for the greatest arts and adventure podcast in all the land, and we have Chris Cross here from New World Distillery, and we are drinking immediately. We're starting the show with alcohol, so let's roll. Chris, talk to me here. Hold that up.
Yeah, really quickly, I brought some things today that you can only get at the distillery. I know it's
in Eden, Utah.
Some people don't get up to Eden very often, so I brought our Rabbit and Grass Reposado agave spirits. In a nutshell, it's 44.5% alcohol by volume. I treat it like a whiskey. It's finished in a used bourbon barrel from Wyoming Whiskey, so I definitely drink it like you would a whiskey. My wife pretty much exclusively makes old fashions with it, so that'll give you a sense of how to use it. It's sweet on sweet, so it makes a really good whiskey.
It smells really sweet. Is that, let me do quick math, 88 proof?
89 proof.
89. Here we go. Sweet. So kick your ass, Todd. Let's go.
Like in a good way, though.
Oh, my God, that's smooth.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yes. Cheers to Ogden Arts and Adventure. Thanks, everyone, for being on the show. That was good. Also with us, we have
that's nice.
Really smart people like Adrian Stump, who writes, I'm excluding us.
Thanks, Brandon. That's very nice. You went right past me.
Show me all the books you've published, Todd.
Fair enough.
Yeah, well, and we'll get into Chris has a pretty awesome background too. But Adrian is an author, local author here, and author of how many books now, Adrian?
2 published.
2 published, and so we'll kind of dive into that, which is very cool to have local authors on the show because Todd, as we've discovered, we are not published authors.
No, but we read and we support.
But we do read a lot. Yeah, I read a lot, actually. So, in fact, I read, you'll be happy to hear this, Adrian. We read Fourth Wing not too long ago for a podcast that we didn't end up releasing because somebody was like, no, we can't release that because people can't know that we read Fourth Wing. Chris, are you familiar with?
I'm not familiar.
Okay, it's
snobs.
Dragon sex. So if you're into dragon sex, you'll love, and not just the dragons that have. There's people that have sex too, but the dragons have sex in them, and it's an awfully long way to get to. Have you read it, Adrian?
No, I haven't.
You haven't read? Okay, well, all right. Well, pro tip: it's not the sex isn't at the beginning. Okay, you got to read a lot to get into. Which I was a little disappointed too, but then I thought it was just one giant metaphor for foreplay, and then that's how I think she wrote it. But
thanks for this.
This
is great. This is a good little intro for that. So any dragons in your books?
No.
Unfortunately, no. But Adrian, why don't you tell us about your book? It's actually, from what I remember, kind of a complicated setup, correct?
Oh yeah, that for the crow's head.
Yeah, the crow's head. Yeah.
You want like a rebrief on that?
A rebrief, yes, please. Yeah, because that was a different podcast, a different show. So we need, we're all new stuff here.
So it's called The Crow's Head. It's book 1 of a series called The Chemical Marriage. It's kind of a contemporary retelling of an alchemical allegory that was published in the 1600s, the 15 or 1600s, that a lot of people consider to be like the first science fiction novel. It's an alchemical allegory.
Okay, what does that mean for like normal people?
It's a story that is symbolic of the process of like medieval alchemy.
Okay. And yours, remind me, was this like going back to the beginnings of time here? Tell me the process of the setting essentially.
So it happens in San Francisco.
That's the beginning of time.
Okay.
San Francisco
happens in San Francisco in like the 20th and early 21st century.
That's right. Okay.
It never quite tells you when it is, but
the
vibe is like the 2000s.
Okay. Fair. And when was that first book published?
It's been 3 years, I think. 3 years ago.
And rousing success. How did you do on that first book?
Yeah, pretty good. I was in the black for up until about just a couple months ago.
Oh yeah. There we go. And then now you got a new book.
Yeah. It's a novella called Locust Eaters. Was actually my thesis project at in my MFA program, which I did at Oregon State University. Mm-hmm. It's about my like kind of one-line elevator pitch on that is that it is about Mormon Vikings. It's actually about the Mormon descendants of Scandinavian people, but I got the idea from me and a couple buddies took a road trip down to Gunnison in the late 2000s, probably around like 2008 or 2009.
That's where most people don't know this, but that's where all the Mormon Vikings ended up.
That is
was in Gunnison.
That is where they ended up.
Yeah.
We found this little like pioneer cemetery, and the headstones in the cemetery was all like Viking stuff, like knotwork and ships and like scenes from Norse mythology, all like together with like normal Mormon stuff, like hands praying in temples and
Yeah, that's odd.
yeah, just kind of like thrown together.
Yeah, so I said teasingly that we were going to start with politics and religion, and I guess we kind of are. But yeah, so you thought that was interesting that this was combined on these headstones, and
Yeah, that's kind of like the kernel that got it started.
Yeah.
That just got my imagination working. And then when I got married, my wife and I, for our honeymoon, we went to Scandinavia. We kind of like backpacked the Baltic. And we went to the Viking Museum in Stockholm, Sweden. And one of the pieces in there was like an early Christian baptismal font, like from like the 8 or 9 or 1000s. And it was like on the kind of like carvings on the outside of it were like Bible scenes.
yeah.
But very kind of like Vikinged out.
This sounds awesome.
Like like Jesus had ravens on his
Yeah,
shoulders.
hell yeah, that's the kind of Jesus we're excited about. Let's go. Yeah,
So those just kind of like that collision of cultures just started working on my imagination, and
so why wasn't that the first book? Because that was
because it wasn't finished yet.
okay.
I was still kind of like wrestling with it and trying to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
The other one just got ready first.
Okay.
But yeah, I did start that one first.
Yeah.
It just took longer to kind of be done.
So did you want to dive into like the historical like accuracy of what you're seeing, or is you're immediately thinking I'm going to repurpose
Reimagine
this
it,
information?
yeah.
I'm going to it turns into a little bit more of a fantastical story.
Yeah, so mine is basically it's another kind of retelling. Like I retold a Norse, like an Icelandic saga, but it happens in 1985 in Gunnison.
Hell yeah.
So I like that.
Gunnison's stoked. Did you do a book reading down there yet?
I haven't done one down there.
Yeah.
I have done some readings from it, but I haven't gone all the way down there to do one yet.
Yeah. You're like, hey, this book is about y'all, you know, but not because. Okay. Very good. Where are you publishing? How does that whole process work?
I'm independently publishing.
Awesome.
I started my own imprint, and
Yeah.
it's a
Well,
do-
we
I
had
do it
you on
myself.
literally with Case, and we've talked about the industry and that's a whole nother story. Of
You crossover,
getting-
so feel
yeah.
free to look that one up.
Yeah, so it's on your website too. If you go to adrianstump.com, STUMPP, two P's,
Yep.
.com, you can see, you can probably order a book there. And then at the bottom, there's the Literally podcast where we dive pretty deep on that first book
Yeah.
with Case. And Case knows what the hell he's talking about. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. So
He gives the illusion that he knows what
Yeah,
he's
that's true, that's
talking
true.
about.
No, that's not fair.
We are all very familiar.
Case knows what he's talking about. At least Renaissance Case does.
yeah, Renaissance Case.
I didn't meet pre-Renaissance Case.
So if Case were here right now, Adrian, what would you tell him about this new book?
I think mostly what I just said in terms of kind of like kicking it off. That's what I would talk about.
Okay.
So I want to hear a little bit more about book one. And so does that mean that you have it sort of sketched out in is it a trilogy? Are you working it out? How does that work when you write something and it ends up as a book one?
Yes, it's 7 parts. I actually just
7
planned
parts.
on writing one, doing the whole thing in one book, but I was like a book's length in and I was still at the beginning.
Fair. That's tough,
So,
isn't it?
As I was going, I was kind of like, this is a book. And then I was like, well, it's going to be a thick book. And then I was like, okay, it's a trilogy. And then I was like, okay, it's a 7-parter. Because the allegory is told in 7 days.
Oh, got you.
And I was 800, well, not 800. I was about 350 pages in, and I was at the end of the first day.
Yeah, hold those books up again so we can see the books. Who does the artwork on them?
My wife did these.
Really? She does a great job. Love it. So Crow's Head, Locust, Eaters, Adrian Stump. Go to adrianstump.com. Are you selling on places like Amazon? And, how does that?
Yeah, they're available on Amazon, and you can also get them at the Happy Magpie.
Oh, yeah. Right. It's like 3 blocks away, which is fantastic.
Yep.
And you can go right next door and buy beers. It's the greatest.
Yeah. It is a great little setup.
It's the greatest little 2-door area.
So what's the story? What's the teaser on book 2? When do we get to, read the continuation of your story?
I'm at the end.
So we're getting close.
Yeah. I think it'll be done by the end of the year.
Nice. That's fantastic.
Good. Then you can come tell us about book 2.
Yeah, sure.
And then I can see why it's going to take 7 iterations or 7 chapters, 7 books, 7 full books to get there to the end. And then do you at any point think like, oh boy, I don't know what I got myself into? Or are you pretty stoked to keep writing?
I think that all the time.
Oh, you do?
All the time. That's why I decided that, okay, I'm going to have to do like shorter things in between, just to kind of like cleanse the palate.
Yeah.
Because if you're just doing something that big and that's all you're doing, you get like sick of it,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I gave myself kind of like, I do one of those and then I do something just completely different that's shorter so it doesn't take too long,
Mm-hmm.
and then come back and do it kind of every other go.
Who inspires you? What do you read when do you prep read? Like, do you read before you write each morning or?
Yeah. So right then kind of to get into the space, I usually read poetry.
Case does the same thing and he can't write poetry. Can you write poetry?
I can't. I can write poetry.
That was a soft yes.
Yeah, it's a soft yes.
Okay.
I haven't really worked on it that much. I mean, anybody can write a poem.
Sure.
No insult to actual poets, but anybody can write a poem. But can I write a good poem?
Yeah,
I mean,
Brandon's written some shitty poems.
In fact,
I've read a couple of.
In fact, they are about shit. I have a
That'll
whole
be your
collection
book.
of poo poetry that I write while on the throne. It'll be coming out soon. So, yeah.
Different show.
Different show. But that's not the kind of poetry. We're talking about real poetry here.
Okay, so having self-published 2 at this point, what's your advice for young authors or authors that
Great
are
question.
excited to get their words in front of eyes? This is Brandon's question, by the way. If he wants to say get poo poetry out there,
yeah.
what do you suggest?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's a ton in there. That's a little question that has like multiple
First baby step.
multiple big answers.
Yeah. Step 1 would be write the book.
Yeah, finish things.
Yeah.
Finish things. Like feel what it's like to actually get to the end.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times aspiring writers, they get really good at starting things.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually see that. Like as you read something that they wrote, the beginning will be pretty good and it'll kind of fall apart as it goes. And it's because we get really used to starting things, but we don't give ourselves a lot of experience of kind of the middle and the end of a project, because they kind of flame out in the middle, especially when you're new and kind of figuring out how to do things. So yeah, the big advice would be finish things. Like feel what it's like to do a middle, feel what it's like to get to an end, even if you don't like it, even if you think it's bad. Finish.
How do you grind through those moments when it's like, yeah, I don't really feel like writing today?
Yeah, different tricks. Sometimes I'll listen to music. Sometimes I'll take a walk. Sometimes I'll even just kind of give myself permission not to do it for a couple days. Like I'm going to give myself 3 days and then it's time to buckle down. You know?
Yeah.
Like any hard job that, you've got to do and you don't really feel like doing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Do it.
Do it. Is that your advice?
That's my way.
Okay. Again, adrianstump.com. You can find the books there. And the upcoming one will be in like January, February, you think, maybe?
Yeah, around about there. November, sometime between November and early March.
There you go. Because you're on your own timeline. You don't have to hit that.
Yeah, I don't have. I mean, sometimes that works to my detriment, but
yeah, totally.
I'm not on anybody else's timeline.
Totally.
Can I ask you a question here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't think the old Mormon Viking thing. I thought you just fabricated that, but then you told your story about going to Gunnison, Colorado. So if we get book 1, will it explain that whole background? You said that was the beginning.
Oh, that one just stands alone. No, yeah, that's the other one. That one's just a story
Okay,
all
gotcha.
by itself.
Wrong book. Gotcha.
Yeah, book 2 is that story.
Okay.
Well, not book 2. The new book
Right.
is
The novella.
that
Did you
story,
call it a
yeah.
novella?
Yeah.
novella.
The novella.
It's a short novel. It's technically long enough to be a novel, but just barely. So
What is the rules?
the kind of rule of thumb, I think, is at 40,000 words. At 40,000 words, you can start calling it a very short novel if you want to.
Can you put in 6 chapters and say, Chat GPT, finish my novel for me?
You probably
good
can,
question.
but
Yeah.
I don't do that. But you probably could.
I wonder what that would look like, because you're like, damn, that sounds like, I wonder if it could stay on voice. I wonder if it could stay, you know what I mean? If it could do character development and stick with the scene. And I wonder if it's there yet, or if it's like, because that would be wild.
What's
Yeah.
crazy is to know that this podcast that you're listening to has been AI for the last 2 months.
We only
2
did the
months.
introduction.
This content right
Yeah.
now you're listening to is
All
straight
AI.
AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the cuts, everything.
It's getting better.
Oh,
It's getting better. It's still flawed, clearly.
the
but
liquor is real, though. It's
Is there any other kind?
Yeah, we all just wrote synopses of what we wanted to say, and then
That's it.
do you,
the
as,
AI.
We pitched in a little bit. Yeah.
do you as an author, does AI concern you at all, or is it just
yeah, it scares the hell out of me.
does it? Okay.
Yeah.
Does it excite you in any way, or is it just the opposite?
There are some things that I think would be, I haven't used it at all, so I'm not talking from like experience, but just when I think about it, things like writing blur, like the kind of like ads or the blurbs.
Yeah, that's helpful
kind
for
of
that
stuff
stuff.
that goes on the back, synopsis, like a synopsis. The stuff that kind of writers have to do, but they're not what you actually want to be doing.
Right.
Right.
I think
When you
would be
need
useful
100
for
words
that.
and you need 230 words, like exactly from content you've already written. I don't know. I think that could be beneficial.
Yeah. In that sense, I think it is kind of a useful tool. From what I understand, the novels that have actually been written with AI are like total crap so far.
Yeah. Well, of course they are.
I don't know that they'll
Because you know
stay
what
that
AI
way,
can't
but-
do? AI can't yet. They can't be alcoholics and they can't be smokers. And that's what all good authors do, right?
You're preaching to the choir.
Drink a lot, smoke. No, I don't know about that, but I've heard Hemingway may have.
Exactly. Hemingway's
Yeah.
rules. Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, Faulkner's too, I think.
Faulkner's too, yeah. So, and do you have a little? Well, do you write in the morning, or in the evening?
Currently, I write right now I would be writing.
Okay, so you could have drinks. I'm just saying you don't want to wake up at 6, start writing, and take a shot of vodka.
Listen,
yeah.
if they did it back then, you could do it now. Yeah.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
You think they had restrictions back
Chris
then?
is like, I've got breakfast liquor for that.
I got
so
it covered,
we can
yeah.
do that. Yeah, we got it covered. So
All right, so I got one last question for you. Are you involved in any reading groups, writing groups, any other writers that sort of hold you accountable or are there as mentors? Are you a solo operation?
I have a really good friend that we were young together. We went through undergraduate together, and we had a writers group that was actually really successful at Weber State back then, and we've stayed in touch ever since. And we're kind of like accountability buddies. Like we check in with each other and see like, are you on task, or what are you doing, or are you taking a break, or because life happens too. And like I have a kid and he has kids, and so there's plenty of things that will kind of stop you if you let them, So yeah, we're accountability buddies together and first readers. Like I read what he writes and he reads what I write. And
I like that. And I fully support that. I think that that's very important. I think it's important across the board. We certainly are accountable for each other.
I don't know though, Todd, because I don't send the podcasts out before,
No,
just
but I
send
just
them
mean
out.
being there for each other.
That's true. You've been speaking about being there. This kid's been there, even on cruises, even in Morocco, like all over the world. You've
Phone
called
once
into
a week.
podcast. Yeah.
on location.
On location. Yeah, which has been years. So
I think that's
yeah, you need one of those on your side. You need a good accountability buddy. I think that's important. Chris, do you have one of those?
Yeah, my wife Ashley for sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her, right?
Yeah.
She holds me to the
That's
schedule.
right. That's right. The calendar, of course, was
The schedule she makes, I keep.
Adrian, thanks so much, man. Appreciate you being here today. Again, the books are adrianstump.com and on Amazon, I guess, and just search for the books. And good luck on the next one.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, finish that one up.
I'm on it.
Yeah, of course.
You're not the first person to bug me about what
Encourage you.
Yeah, encourage.
Support you.
That's right. Well, we're on round 2 here, Chris. I mean, this is easy sipping. I'm telling you.
Yeah, this is very nice.
Thanks.
How do you go about dialing in the flavor on what you're making? Because you're the distiller.
Yeah.
How drunk do you get? Like, how hard is it? Like,
I always say it's a hazard of the job, and that's like the nicest way to put it for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of drinking involved in developing new things for sure.
Yeah, but it's like, how do you not, like, do you waste a lot? Like, how does it work?
No, because when you're experimenting, we operate at a much smaller scale.
Sure.
You can never experiment, at the scale we operate on. I consider us, the only medium-sized distillery in the state, and you certainly can't experiment on that side. You can't even experiment on the small side, so you need to have, much smaller, all the way down to like laboratory, lab glass equipment in order to, work on a much lower scale for sure.
Okay.
And you have that set up.
I have way too many distillation apparatus in my life. It's kind of like, Chris Stapleton guitars. I have way too many distillation equipment. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hear the backstory, because I sort of know it, but let's start about, from the job before, and then how you made the transition to, let's open a distillery in Eden, Utah.
Yeah, my career-wise, I was all about aviation. My degree is actually in aerospace engineering for some reason, but that just led to a career.
I'm gonna close this door.
Got the band plan, yeah. I led to a career in the military. I flew fighters for 20 years, and that's kind of where I got started drinking, obviously, because there's a lot of drinking involved in that career field as well. But then I became a tequila enthusiast probably pretty early in my life, which kind of led to non-traditional vacationing, traveling to Mexico, and instead of going to resorts, I'd go to distilleries.
So you got geek hard pretty fast.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big difference between having a drink at the bar by the airport and then where you became.
Yeah, totally.
You're making trips to Mexico.
Geek is the right word for sure. I mean, I went, pretty deep there on the technical side, and wanted to learn more. Read a couple books on distilling, and it's sensory, so you can't really read flavor and aroma. So
yeah,
I had to graduate to do it on myself. I had a custom still built for myself long time ago, and I became a backyard distiller. So that's how I got started.
Is that legal, by the way?
It is not
All right.
legal.
Sure, just wondering.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can make beer at home, you can make wine at home, you can make cider at home, you can make mead at home, but you can't make distilled spirits. And
But did they that just change recently?
in a couple states it has. A couple states have actually made it legal, but on a federal level, it's definitely illegal. And there's some good reasons for that. You're making a lot of flammable stuff. So you can definitely blow yourself up, and that's happened. And then you can also make some poisonous things, and that can do really bad things to you really fast. So there's good reasons they don't let you distill at home, but I think it's gotten better now just because of technology. I always tell people that, back in the day when I was a hobbyist distiller, I understood why they didn't let you do it at home, but now there's some technological advances that let you, be a little safer at home for sure.
So you can't legally distill at home, but you can legally sell everything you need to distill at home. Is that?
Yeah, you can certainly buy all the equipment to do it for sure.
Yeah.
Because the first step in distilling is you make a beer, you make a wine, or you make a cider. That's the first step in distilling, is you have to make the alcohol. So the alcohol is made, in the fermentation step, obviously. So all distillers are beer makers, all distillers are wine makers, because that is the first step
Okay.
in making the alcohol.
So do you start with beer or wine?
That's what we're making for the agave spirits we're drinking right now. We start by making an agave wine.
Yeah.
That's the first step. When we make our 9 Rails bourbon whiskey, we start by making corn-based beer, because that's what whiskey is. Whiskey is distilled beer. So yeah, I'm a winemaker and a beer maker. I just can't sell my wine or I can't sell my beer because my permit only allows me to make distilled spirits.
Oh, interesting.
How's that work as far as the home brewer goes? Who are they able to share that with?
They have
Friends, pals,
yeah, they have
family?
it's based on a volume.
Okay.
You're allowed to make, X number of gallons a year. Obviously, you probably couldn't drink all those gallons by yourself, so you have to have your friends help you.
Of
for
course.
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, distilled spirits, the gallons are zero. But beer making and wine making, it's typically based on the number of gallons you make per year.
So New World Distillery. Talk to me about the name.
My wife was a public educator for 24 years, and
Which round of applause for public educator? That's here I got the thing. There we go.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Thank goodness she quit before COVID when things got even worse. But yeah, she
Yeah.
was a public educator and just got burned out. In a word, she just saw that everybody works at a different level. Everybody's the same pay. It's a union job,
Mm-hmm.
and she just couldn't take it anymore. She said, "I'm quitting my job," which was really unexpected, and that was not in the game plan for her to quit her
Surprise!
job. Because that was old school state pension days. That was like,
Oh yeah.
that's a good
And
deal.
so if
right?
you quit, you don't get the pension.
Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, she quit, and she just said, this has become my whole world. You take all your work home with you. They're early, stay late. Bring it home on the weekends. And she said, I need a new world. And I got an idea.
Yeah.
Aw,
This is what I want to do.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hadn't pictured that. Was she also a geek? Was she a...
No. Yeah, she's not like me. I'm like the Scandinavian architect, and she's definitely a little more free flow for sure.
Maybe that's a good balance.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we were both that way, it probably wouldn't work out very well.
I think it's
sure.
always good to sort of share those differences. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
we're definitely different in that way for sure. She's an artist. She's a English major writer, has her MFA, the whole thing. So
Yeah, I was
Someone-
teacher for a decade, so
There you go.
I understand completely what she was telling you.
yeah,
So what did you start with? Which one was your first?
we actually launched with our Uma gin. I have a bottle here.
Yeah.
We actually launched with that. That was our launch product. And, people always ask me, why did you start with the gin? We opened December 10th of 2016. And, back then, 8 years ago, gin was a pretty niche product here in the U.S. It wasn't that way in the rest of the world. The rest of the world was booming in gin. We're way behind the rest of the world when it comes to gin diversity. Here in the United States, we're stuck with
Which
your
is a
grandma.
damn shame.
Yeah, it is. So we decided to launch with the gin just because we wanted it to have its time in the spotlight all by itself. When at a time when gin was kind of a niche spirit. It's not that way anymore. I think that's a credit to the craft spirits industry because now we have so much more diversity in gin than people drinking their grandma's gin, which London dry gin. So I think that things have changed in the last 8 years, and we're kind of catching up with the rest of the world. But we're super happy we did it. It had its time on the shelf all by itself. Had we, done the vodka or the Blanco first, I feel like when we launched the gin third, it just kind of wouldn't have got the attention it got as the only thing on the shelf. So having it as the only thing on the shelf for us, kind of got it out there in front, and it's still our number one seller pretty handily. So we're super happy that we launched with the gin.
For your first release, how is it? Why is it so good? Like, how is it so good? Like, I'm a gin person. Brandon's a rum person.
Yeah.
I love gin. I find myself making trips to try new gin and that whole thing. And so
I'm with you.
your gin is really good.
Cool.
And it's talked about
Yeah.
locally, and it's talked. I'm certainly not a snob by any means, but I just enjoy gin, and I like.
Well,
trying
we
new
should
gin.
mention my sister. She's a bartender at a snazzy place in Salt Lake, and she introduced me to the gin at first years ago because she was on board immediately. So
Yeah.
yeah, she
No,
loves.
she can play with gin really, really well, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of us that's. I mostly do gin-based drinks. I'll be honest, because that's.
Me too.
I'm pretty straightforward on that, and your gin is really good.
Cool. Yeah, I'm
So
with
how
you.
did that happen?
It wasn't easy. There's gin is an infinite category. There are no two gins on the shelf that are alike. It's
Fair.
infinite. So like you have to try a lot to figure out what
Yes,
you
of
like,
course,
right?
yeah.
For us, that was a long process. I mean, we did some formal things, like we went to gin school together in the Netherlands. My wife's been to a couple gin schools without me.
Todd, why haven't we been to gin school?
How was your
yet?
first gin school?
Oh my
that
God,
must have been
that's
a fun
amazing.
experience.
Oh, it's a great experience.
Oh
yeah,
my
especially at the
God.
home of gin. The Dutch
Of
invented
course,
gin.
yeah.
And then you have to, and we had a Dutch gin consultant as well.
As you do,
We did.
as you do. That seems like the route you would go is to bring in did you say a Dutch gin consultant?
Exactly.
I love that. Yeah.
But even with all those head starts and rules of thumb and generalities, it still took us a full year and a half. And that's just experimentation at a really small scale. You know, we wrote down what we thought were good ideas, and you try it and like, okay, that didn't work at all. I always tell people the easiest thing in the world to make is a horrible gin. Because what you're making when you're making distilled gin, you're making essential oils. So that's, you know, super powerful flavor and aroma profile. So it can be quite overpowering, and quite often it is in a bad way. So it took us a long time to perfect that gin, and we worked over a year and a half of making gin literally every day. We tried more than 100 botanicals before we ended up with the 9 that ended up in our gin. So that's a lot of work.
How did you know? How did you know that one day you're like, nailed it?
I actually love those days when we're like, hey, are we going final with this?
Yeah.
Like, let's sit down one more time. Let's taste it one final time. Because if we're going final with it, we're going to scale this up to a really expensive scale, you know, at the scale at which we make it now. And we've done that a few times where we have those, you know, days where we sit down at the dining room table and we're like, this is it. We're going to have to agree that this is it before we start making it at an obnoxious scale. And that was a great day when we finally, you know, had that nailed down. I felt the same way about our 9 Rails bourbon whiskey. I remember that day vividly where we sat down at the table and like, this is it. This is our final.
Yeah, you want to hold that up? Because that's a great design on that too.
Yeah, this is our 9 Rails bourbon whiskey. And we had the same kind of experience that night. I came home, I'm like, we have to go final tonight because I'm making it tomorrow, right? And that was another day where it was just amazing because we had that final taste and we're like, yeah, that's it. We're going forward at a very large scale.
So then and now, who's your selection committee? Is it you and your wife? Do you have who's part of that decision making process?
You know, from a spirit perspective, it's definitely the two of us. You know, we include our kids in bigger things like art and words on paper, you know, things that we write. And we include our staff a lot too. I mean, our staff is dialed into a very comfortable little group that we really trust. So when we taste new things, we always include the staff in that. You know, it's like, hey, what do you think about this? This is what I think about this.
Perfect.
And we really get good buy-in from the staff that, you know, I think we've kind of built the right crew now, you know, that we get
that's everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Trusting crew that we can know that they're not going to just say, yeah, that's good when it's really not, you know.
How many did you start with and how many people do you have now?
Well, we started with 2. We got up to a high of 7 in, you know, March of 2020. And then we went down to 1,
Fair.
Me, for a few months. And then we, you know, started bringing people back on. And we had some people that didn't come back post-COVID for good reasons. You know, they had to get a real job with health insurance and things like that. I get it. But then we've, you know, kind of settled on a nice core group now that we really trust. But it's taken us time. So we're up to 4 employees, back up to 4 employees now in addition to the 2 of us.
Love that.
What's the process of going through the state of Utah to get liquor license so that you can distill?
Yeah, the state is essentially has nothing to do with it. They're pretty much a rubber stamp, quite frankly. The production of alcohol is a federal operation, period.
Oh, okay.
End of story. So before you can even apply to get your state manufacturing license, you have to have your federal permit. That's a lot harder to get. I mean, that's infinitely harder to get. And once you have that, you basically fill out the paperwork to get your manufacturing license. The state is essentially a rubber stamp.
Okay.
At that point. So the state, literally, we got our DSP in October. We had to go before, you know, a DABC commission meeting, but it happened to be the next week, and it was literally, we had our license the next week, and we made our first batch of gin that same week. It was great.
And you can start selling as soon as you distill it and you get your license? Or?
Yeah, that's a harder problem. We can certainly sell at our place from day one, and we did. You know, we had our gin on December 10th, and we could sell it on our shelf. We're a package agency, which means we're a state liquor store. But we can only sell what we make. But we did that, you know, December 10th. Getting it in the state stores is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
And they make that as easy as possible.
Oh, of course they do.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Well,
there's a reason I
they
brought
support the entrepreneurs. This is what we do in our state.
Oh, they do not. But there's a reason I bought the Reposado.
You know how they support them, and I want to hear about the Reposado. Is I was in there today looking for all of your stuff. Okay?
Yeah.
And I really only found the vodka in the one, but they put the little tags on the shelves that says local.
That's new.
So it is new, and I'm glad they do it because it is easier to spot that. But I mean, we're joking that they don't really help, but at least now they got tags that showcase that this is a local spirit.
And that really came on with the new director, who really kind of spearheaded that Proudly Utah program and highlighting what is local. Before that, they were anti-local. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it except they were anti-local.
Yeah.
Before,
and it's not on the bottom. Like local's not all on the bottom shelf. It's on the mid shelves, and it's in eyesight, and it's all dented brick and high west. They're all considered local, I guess. So,
I appreciate the move. There's 5 Proudly Utah stores. If you've ever gone into one of those, they're quite different than the other stores. They have a whole section dedicated to the local products. There's only 5 right now. Hopefully that'll get a little better as we go on. But it is a good positive change, and it's what led us to list with the state our Ogden Valley vodka. Our Ogden Valley vodka we only sold at the distillery for 6 years. And then once they started the Proudly Utah program, we're like, hey, this is a golden opportunity to get the vodka out there. So we listed the Ogden Valley vodka.
Yeah.
Here's my plug on that beautiful bottle.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite bottles.
It's very pretty, which we can talk about that too in a minute. But the Reposado you were mentioning.
Yeah, we only sold at the distillery. And it's that aged spirits thing. It's very, very difficult to work with the state because you don't know how many stores are going to put it in. So how do you project those futures of how much stuff do you put in a barrel, right? Mm-hmm. So we only sell the Reposado at our store because we know how much we sell at our store. Mm-hmm. It's pretty consistent. So that's the
only. So they don't tell you.
Yeah, it's a very frustrating process. They have an algorithm that calculates what is selling in certain price bands, and they determine what they carry and what they don't carry, what they pull off the shelf and what they put on the shelf.
Is there enough information to maybe get a sell-through rate too? Because you don't know how good your marketing is or your branding is, and then by the time it pops up in the store, who knows? Maybe everybody's been looking for it, and now you're selling out, and now you got to. I mean, how long out is your distill time? So
that's another very frustrating aspect. Is a lot of times we don't know we're at a restaurant or a bar unless we walk in that restaurant or bar. Like, oh look. We're not on the shelf. We're on the menu because they don't let us know what licensees, bars and restaurants, what licensees are buying our product, which would be very, very helpful because we could get them some personal touch, right? We could give them some one-on-one, manufacturer customer interaction, but we don't even know where our stuff is, which is
okay. So if you're listening to this when you're out of state, an entrepreneur would think, okay, I'm going to distill this. I got this beverage. I'm going to go to my favorite restaurant, pitch the owner, and see if he can sell it for me, and we'll work out a deal. But that's not how it works in Utah.
Not how it works in Utah.
It's all run under the state.
Yeah, the state is in charge of distribution and retail of alcohol.
To everything.
So they don't, unfortunately, they have the ability to let us know what licensees are buying our stuff, but they don't do that. It's not part of what they report to us, which is super frustrating for sure.
I didn't think about that. I didn't know that really.
Yeah.
As far as, because the restaurant thing blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because that makes a huge difference.
The restaurants and the bars make all the difference. I mean, they're the ones in charge right now. And ever since they introduced this algorithm on what they carry in the liquor stores, the managers have no say. It used to be different. I used to visit the stores because the managers had a say.
So you can't even hire like a sales guy.
Only to visit bars and restaurants. That's effective.
Okay.
But visiting liquor stores is not effective anymore. When we started, it was, but now it's not at all. So right now, sure, I can hire a sales guy to go to bars and restaurants. Kristen does it for UTOG, for example.
Yeah,
it's very effective. You visit bars and restaurants, and you get them to carry your stuff. And that they are the ones that have all the power right now. Are the licensees? The bars and restaurants have all the power.
So you have a pretty good sense of where you can buy your stuff in the restaurants and the
We
the
don't.
bars.
That's what I'm saying.
That's part of it.
Yeah, we get a surprise. We walk into a restaurant like, hey, look, we're on the menu. It's like, this is great.
Yeah,
I had no idea we're on the menu, right?
That is wild.
It is wild. It is wild. And, there's, how the restaurant industry is. There's a lot of turnover.
Oh, sure.
So you get established, very firmly with a bartender that's a big fan, and then the bartender goes to a different job. And then you have to reattack that same establishment, which we didn't even know that the bartender moved on, right? So, yeah, it's pretty frustrating. But, what we hope what's in the bottle speaks for itself. And then
and how do you scale? Because that sounds like a nightmare as far as the distilling goes.
And you nailed it, and that is why typically the aged spirits we only sell at the distillery. because you can't. That's very expensive to scale. You're putting a lot of money in a barrel that's sitting for a long time, and then you have to have a market for it. And if you don't have the market for it, like that, you're got upside down, right? So that's why we sell the clear spirits in the liquor stores, because we can scale the crap out of that, right? You can't scale aged spirits very easily.
Okay, so what about out of state? How do you go about attacking that?
And that's worked out really well for us. We only have 2 distributors, the state of Utah, and we have a distributor in California. So those are the only 2 states we distribute in. But because we have the distributor in California, we have a direct-to-consumer retailer in California. So for the states that allow you to order alcohol online and have it shipped direct to your house.
Which is super convenient, by the way.
It is super convenient.
It's it's really, really nice. Living in California just for a spell when I did, it was just like, oh, it's so nice.
And we can't do that here, unfortunately.
Yeah, well,
we're one of those.
We got people looking out for us.
We're all 12. Apparently.
Keeping us safe. Yeah.
We're all criminals.
Making choices. Making choices.
We're all bad guys.
Oh my gosh.
But it's worked out great for us. So we have a distributor in California, a direct-to-consumer retailer in California. It's called shotsbox.com, shotsbox.com. And they literally are a virtual retail. They don't have a brick and mortar, but they can ship nationwide. And so we literally are available nationwide with five of our products, because we have the distributor in California. And that has been like a windfall for us. We had no idea it was going to work out that way. We were targeting the tourists. They come to Utah to ski. They fall in love with the gin, for example. They go home. They want to be able to order another bottle, right? And now they can do that through the store in California. And we have, the surprising thing about that is we've organically found ourselves morphing out into liquor stores, bars, and restaurants in California without a sales force. It's been amazing. And that's
interesting.
That's our
Well,
customer.
that speaks to the product. I mean, you're not going to do that with a crappy product. So
It's that and the customers, because the customers advocate for us. So the people from California that come here to ski, for example, they go home, they go to their local, every Friday night, they go to the same restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And we have a distributor in California, and we let them know. And they're like, hey, we found this gin in Utah. What? And they have a distributor in California. Why don't you carry this gin? Next thing you know, we're in bars and restaurants we never even marketed to because of our customers. Our customers have 100% responsible for that growth, which has been fantastic.
I love it. So what are you up to now? What's the whole lineup here? Let's burn through it real quick here.
Yeah, we want to burn through it for sure.
I mean, not literally burn through it.
We'll go through it really quickly, though. Our launch product was our Uma Gin. I think we've talked about that pretty extensively. It's in 35 of the state liquor stores, so it's pretty easy to find. Our next release was our Ravener Grass Blanco Agave Spirits, which is also pretty easy to find in the state liquor stores.
Great graphic, by the way.
It's in about 20.
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
awesome.
Local artists, by the way. All of our bottles, we didn't hire a bottle designer. We hired an artist to produce an individual piece of art that we later applied to the bottle. So that was our process, because we knew we were going to screen print our bottles. So we wanted to have all of our art trademarked prior to printing thousands of bottles, right?
Yeah.
So we started that process all the way back in 2014. We didn't open until end of 2016, right? But yeah, that's Maya Well, the goddess of agave, is the art on the Blanco and on the Reposado as well. So that was our second release. Obviously, this is my baby. Ashley's baby is the gin. This is my baby. That's why we kind of went 1 and 2 that way. Our third release was our Ogden Valley Vodka.
The Blanco is so good, by the way. Oh,
Yeah, that's my Frankenstein. That's what I drink. The Ogden Valley Vodka was our third release. This is an interesting thing. 1/3 of Americans identify as vodka drinkers, so we knew we had to have one in our lineup. All craft distilleries, generally have a vodka in the lineup because 1/3 of Americans.
is it the easiest? Is vodka the easiest?
Oh
to
my God,
distill?
no, it's the hardest.
Really?
From a technical perspective, this is the hardest thing to make. From a technical perspective, from an art perspective, the gin is the hardest thing to make. But from a technical perspective, the vodka is actually the hardest thing to make. So we.
I thought you just needed some potatoes and you just end up with vodka somehow.
No, it's very technically difficult to make vodka.
Yeah.
But this was the third thing in our lineup, even though that wasn't the plan, right? We knew we needed this early. The problem is I only make what I drink, and I don't drink vodka.
Yeah.
So the vodka was a huge struggle for us because I don't drink vodka. I was experimenting not only at small scales, but at some pretty medium scales too, some pretty expensive scales. I was experimenting with the vodka. I just wasn't happy. And then finally one night we're having drinks on our deck, and that's where we solved most of our problems. And Ashley said, "You're overthinking."
If you ever need anyone to help, Todd and I are available to I'm over for drinks on
for the
deck.
gin, but you make a good point because if you gave me a night of vodka, I don't think I'd have a great time because I'm just not a big vodka drinker.
I'm not a vodka drinker either. So it was a hard problem for me, because I only make what I drink.
Yeah.
And so she said, you're just overthinking it. You need to make it out of something you care about. And so we make our vodka out of agave.
Fair.
And this is exotic vodka for a lot of reasons. The number one is the raw material. And number two is it's not carbon filtered. The vast majority, we're talking like over 99% of vodkas are carbon filtered. This is not. So it retains its character, retains its flavor and aroma.
So carbon strips that?
Yeah, carbon removes the flavor and the aroma. It's very common in the vodka world. It's almost obligatory in the
That's why vodka tastes like just straight alcohol. Rubbing
Exactly.
alcohol. Yeah.
Exactly. But this is not, and I'm emotionally attached to this. I do drink a lot of this now because I like a vodka martini.
Sure.
And if
that
you're
would be
not-
the way that I would do it.
And if you're not a vodka drinker, you need to try this in a martini because it's mind-blowingly good.
There we go.
That's why I do it. But that was our third release. Then fast forward to the Reposado, which we've already talked about because that's what we're drinking tonight. And then our next release was a surprise. That was our Wasatch Blossom Tart Cherry Liqueur. This wasn't in the business plan. We released this in August of 2017. So quite literally 9 months after we opened, we released the Wasatch Blossom, which is insane to me how we were able to do that. But if you would have told me that, I'd have a cherry liqueur in my lineup, I would have told you you're an idiot. There's zero chance.
And there's no agave in that, or is there? Oh, but wait.
But wait, this has agave two ways.
Hell yeah. Okay.
It has it in the base spirit, and it also is the sweetener. So this is sweetened with organic agave. It has zero refined sugar.
Yeah.
But
So
actually has
what I'm
agave two
hearing
ways.
is you have learned all 2 million ways to use agave, apparently.
Yeah, it's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
For sure. Definitely my passion, raw material. My license plate on my truck is agave. So yeah,
Oh, I love that. Nice.
I've had that on like 10 different vehicles. So I've had that forever. Like
That's awesome.
way before I was even a distiller. I think I had that. Had that on my car. But yeah, that was the surprise in our lineup was the Wasatch Blossom Tart Cherry Liqueur. And then obviously we have things that you can't get in the liquor stores. We have what we call the Uncharted series, which is our fill in the blank label.
That's the one I need to try. I haven't tried that.
Well, this is everything.
it's
This is
something.
not just something to try. This is everything because this is our single batch, single barrel seasonal label. This varies wildly.
Oh, wow.
Something we do very consistently is this bottle. It's our seasonal apple brandy. We do this every year so that you can get that. But we do crazy things. Like I did a Reposado aged in an apple brandy barrel. We do like crazy things with this because it's this fill in the blank label. I can pretty much do whatever I want. So we have a lot of things available on
So
this.
to clarify, that won't taste the same year over year. It's going to be a little different.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely different year over year. And then obviously the last thing outside of that, which we talked about, is the 9 Rails Bourbon Whiskey. We only released this at the distillery. It has a cult following. We're working on making it more available.
How fast does that sell out?
Our record is 43 minutes.
Wow.
So it literally sells out on release day. We have people.
That bottle is $2 million right there.
Yeah, I've been offered a lot of money for this bottle for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, it's crazy. But we're
So
working
are you
on
ramping that up?
We
or-
are.
Okay.
We bought a new still. That's not an easy entry point, but we did that just to make the vodka or the bourbon supply chain more available over time.
I don't know. I drink rum, so I don't
Okay.
know. I mean, I'm fascinated by how many people are just deep in on the whiskeys and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm also fascinated why you went with gin for how you went instead of, because it feels like the industry was calling for bourbon or from the beginning,
For sure. But, bourbons take time because it has to sit in a barrel forever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you can't open with bourbon unless you are producing for years and years and years before you finally release something, right? You have to have something to release en route. And that's pretty common in our industry. You have to come up with the clear spirit. That's why everybody has a vodka, right? Or everybody tries to have a gin or something along those lines, because you have to have something you can sell now, because you can't sell the bourbon until way later because it has to sit in the barrel for so long. So people that open and have a bourbon on the shelf on day one, they don't make it. I mean, that's how it works. They sourced bulk whiskey and put it in a bottle and sell it as a craft
that
spirit.
sounds gross.
Super common.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question for
Yeah.
you. So out of the batch, and I think probably April, my best friend and Brandon's sister, bartends at a place called Post Office Place down
Yeah,
in
I
Salt
love
Lake,
that place. Absolutely love that
great
place.
drinks and
Yeah.
good product and
Yep.
everything. And so I would love to see, and I'm sure that some of your stuff's there. Wouldn't
Yeah.
surprise me. Yeah.
I did an event down there before COVID. They hosted the Utah Bartenders Guild meeting there,
Oh, cool.
and I was the presenter that day.
Oh, cool.
Down there.
When was that?
It was great. It was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I'd love to see what she does with the liqueur.
yeah.
And in fact, I would love to try that liqueur. That out of the batch, I'm looking at that. I'm like, what's a cocktail that you use that for?
They've got some fun
When you're
stuff
putting
they've
that
done with
together?
that over the years.
Yeah, we had a really awesome mixologist, and she used that in tons of custom cocktails all the time. It's pretty unique. Like I said, 0 refined sugar. It's also 32% alcohol by volume, so it's very big for liqueur.
Yeah.
And literally, the bartenders, that's what they ask me most of. Like, make another liqueur, make another liqueur.
Well, sure. Yeah. Anytime I make a trip down to Vegas, my folks live in Vegas, and when I go down there, I stock up for April, and I hit it big, and I usually come back with, I'll be honest, a lot of gins, but then liqueurs, like
Yeah.
a lot of liqueurs, right?
I get it.
And that's the secret. I mean, those are the little secret ingredients.
That's
for
your
all those
sweetener.
drinks.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's the secret ingredient. But yeah, we use that in custom cocktails all the time. But you can also do classics with it. We do cherry margaritas. That's our go-to event drink. So a margarita using that instead of the orange liqueur.
That would be perfect.
It is amazing. Cherry lemon drop using that instead of orange liqueur.
Hey,
It's
do they use it
amazing.
at this restaurant over here?
They did.
They did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This right here, WB's?
No, not
Used to be there?
WB's. The margar. What's the margarita?
Oh,
one?
Jalisco.
Yes. Is that how you say it? Jalisco?
Yeah, Jalisco.
Okay. Jalisco.
With an X.
Yes,
Jalisco
with an X.
instead of a J. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have talked to them.
Okay. Just curious because
we're working on that.
They use that's sort of their wheelhouse. I
Yes,
guess. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, we're working on that. We did, we do a lot of Ogden contemporary arts, on stage Ogden stuff. So when we had the ballet folklore corps and the mariachis here, we were involved in them with them in that. But yeah, we're working on them as well. But yeah, we do classics like a cherry lemon drop, cherry margarita. But the most popular drink is why we're on a lot of brunch menus. It's super simple, just a champagne glass, 3/4 ounce of the cherry liqueur, top it with sparkling wine. That's an amazing Sunday drink, right?
And I'm curious to check the sweetness because I can't go too sweet. Like I can't go too sweet, but it's always a matter of what it's paired with and how
Adrian, you thirsty over there?
Yeah.
Do you need another drink?
Sure. Yeah.
It's actually an awesome mix of sweet and sour because the cherries are sour cherries,
Yeah.
they're tart cherries.
That's the part that I'm curious.
And the other
about,
thing is
yeah.
most liqueurs are they're loaded with refined sugar. And that's why when you pull the cap off and it gets all that sugar crust on it, this has 0 refined sugar.
I like to hear that.
It's actually sweet with organic
That's
agave.
what I'm really excited about.
It'll surprise you. It's not as sweet as you think.
Now, is that only at your location or is that
No.
one in the
That's
stores?
that's in 25
Okay.
of the state stores. It sells really well statewide.
While you're pouring, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm gonna buy some of that this week for April because I want to see. But
Yeah.
maybe she's already familiar with it, but if she hasn't made me
At Post
anything
Office
with
Place,
it,
they're
so-
familiar with it.
Okay.
They're.
I'm sure she is.
That's a
so-
great bar, by the way. I love that bar.
Oh, I appreciate you saying that. I'll let her know.
That is definitely one of the best bars. I have my couple go-to places in Salt Lake. I try other places. Did you need to top off?
Well, maybe.
Do I need one?
I
I
just thought
try.
about it,
I try other places, and then I end up disappointed and end up back at my favorites, and that's one of my favorites.
And they have good food there too, so
They
I think
do.
it's a good call.
That is, and I go back there time and time again. And I'm like, okay, we had a bad drink at this other place. Let's go get a good drink at a good place. And the same thing happens with me at Copper Common. I always end up at Copper Common.
Yeah.
Same kind of reason.
Well, I got 2 last questions, and we can sort of wrap up here. But one, you do a lot of distillery tours. Talk to us about that and the reason for behind doing that.
Yeah, we do tours on the weekends. Our schedule changes, every weekend because we're doing private tours and other events offsite. But our schedule is always up to date on our website, so that's a good way to do it. If you're interested in a distillery tour, we have a 50% off code. It's Visit Ogden, capital V, capital O, and you get 50% off the tour. So that's a good way to do it. But yeah, we've won best tour of Northern Utah twice, Standard Examiner. But yeah, we do them on the weekends, and they're quite different. They're not a fluff and buff tour. They're a lot more educational. We get a lot deeper.
Okay.
than most. I've been to a lot of bad
Do people
distilleries.
cry? You know?
Sometimes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see?
Sometimes they cry. Yeah. That's
You
what
really,
talking
you really
about.
touched something.
We're going
You really
hard.
touched
Yeah.
something.
it's like getting that really hard massage. You're like, that's maybe too hard.
Yeah, it's so good. So ow, ow.
Yeah. So it's not your typical tour. You're always with an owner. We don't hire people to give the tours. It's always us. So
it's personalized.
it is personalized, and it's it's a lot deeper. And I like to geek out.
Yeah, I feel bad if I get this wrong, but it seems to me that you have donated tours. We're kind of obsessed with this BAMF when it passes through. I think that do you donate tours?
Yep, all the time. And we just
that's always one of the big prizes. I mean, that's really one of the big prizes that you donate.
And one of my tour my private last Saturday was at Banff Film Festival.
Awesome.
It's good people, but I perk up every time. Some haven't won a damn thing at that Banff. One of these years.
We've never won
one of these
anything
years.
at Banff. Yeah, we go every
That's
year.
so funny.
Yeah, we donate a lot of tours, and that's like definitely a big part of our business. And it's also supporting a lot of good causes out there.
Yeah.
So that's been a really good thing for us. We get really good people through because we kind of pick and choose our causes. We're all about animals and art. That's kind of what our emphasis is. So
An adventure. Arts and adventure. I mean, that's where we find you.
That's what we're targeting for sure.
Yeah.
So the other question is, and we talked about this outside, but you've branded each spirit specifically, like you said, with the art that you bought. But it's actually sometimes hard to find the distillery name on the bottle.
Yeah.
So why did you go that route?
There's two ways to approach things. You can either be a branded house where everything is named after your brand, right? And I'll use James at Sugar House Distillery as an example. It's Sugar House Distillery vodka, Sugar House Distillery bourbon, Sugar House Distillery rum, right?
Right.
Or you can be a house of brands where each brand has their own unique name.
Ooh, I like that, House of Brands.
House of Brands. That's what we are. We're a house of brands. So I didn't want to make, New World Distillery Gin, New World Distillery Blanco Agave Spirits, New World Distillery Vodka. And it's a business decision because if you ever end up selling off a brand, it's tied to your distillery, right?
Oh, yeah.
And that doesn't work real well if you ever sell off an individual brand. So I kind of use Saint.
I guess you can do that. I didn't think about that, but
it's the Holy Grail.
it is okay.
It's the Holy Grail.
Okay.
So I kind of use St. George Spirits in Alameda, California. Lance is a pioneer in the industry there in Alameda, and he wasn't a branded house; he was a house of brands, and he sold off a brand very early on, and it basically funds all the cool things he does a day. He's so far out there, doing amazing things with incredible diversity.
Does he just take it like a percentage, or is it like a
No, he sold the brand off wholesale. He doesn't own it anymore
at all? Okay.
Yeah, and so by selling off one brand, it has funded his adventure.
Amazing.
So that's why we made the very conscious business decision to be a house of brands.
But these are so personal. Wouldn't it be hard to well, you're like when you see the dollar signs, maybe not so hard, but
it's okay.
It's
It's like art, dude. We've talked about that. You have the pride in the piece, but if you get too precious, then sometimes that is to your detriment. And so I run across that with artists that don't sell work.
Yeah.
They just get a little too attached to it.
Yeah.
I would sell. The Uma Gin's a perfect example. It's very emotionally attached to me, but I would happily sell it. I'd make another gin.
Yep.
And that's what
I don't see you stopping that journey. You had any offers yet? Do you have any celeb offers yet? Anybody that's called any interest?
I offered on behalf of Banyan.
Yeah.
But they didn't
We're
have
not at that number yet.
We're not at that number yet. So.
You're like, well, we can put your name on some coasters. Maybe that's right.
Not like
shoot.
about a specific brand, but there's a lot of interest in the industry because it's growing.
Very popular
we're
now.
behind craft beer, and you've seen the success of craft beer, which is insane, right? So there's a lot of interest, but we haven't had that celebrity walk through the door. I've had a couple celebrities walk in the door.
I'll bet you have.
But I haven't had like the one that said, "Okay, I want that."
Ryan Reynolds hasn't come in by yet. So.
Yeah, Ryan would
yet.
totally buy.
My wife always says she can't wait till Jack Black walks through the door. That's her favorite.
Yeah.
So
I like that idea.
she wants
That's
Jack Black
good.
to walk in.
What about if a brand, so Banyan wanted their own whiskey or whatever? Is that something you would would do? I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
It's called contract distilling. Like Utah, they have the bowling company beer.
Yes.
That's a perfect example
Okay.
of a contract job where you're tied to that brand. And we have done that. We actually did a contract distilling job for an artist collective, actually.
Okay.
And they were super involved in the R&D process. We did a lot of small scale distillations until we had what they wanted. And they were super involved. They literally bottled their batch. They labeled their batch. It was very, very cool. But it was to raise money for an artist collective, and they bought the whole batch. It was theirs, and it was basically their currency at Burning Man. That was what they did.
Hell yeah.
They went to Burning Man, and that was their currency. They had a whole batch. And we have been approached many, many times about those contract distilling jobs. People get scared off by the price tag.
Yeah.
We're not small.
Yeah.
So, for me to say this is like the minimum I can make, and this is what the minimum costs are, like, wow, I had no idea.
So minimum, should we throw those numbers out? Minimum cost?
What was your minimum for the Burning Man project?
Yeah.
That was my absolute minimum.
Yeah.
We did like 92 cases, 6-pack cases, 92 6-pack cases. That was like my absolute minimum.
But I'll tell you the truth, that is not a bad audience, because old Burning Man is a different story. New Burning Man, there's money out there.
Yeah.
And so something like that, and
That's true.
trade is currency out there because there's no exchange of money on the playa there. And so that's brilliant. I mean, that's brilliant. Better than a friendship bracelet.
Yeah.
Shit.
I get approached.
Give me
all
a
the time.
bottle.
They
Yeah,
usually
give me
get
a
scared
bottle.
off by the price tag.
I'll bet.
But that was a really good example. That was literally our minimum. That's like the minimum I could do, because we're pretty big.
Yeah.
We're not a tiny place. We're actually
Okay.
pretty big.
So when you making the rum again?
I get asked that all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah, I get asked that all the time.
Which I find that odd.
That's all for Brandon,
It's
just
all-
so you know. All the questions are coming through.
I just tell everybody, hey, when you see Chris, ask him about the rum.
I almost did a batch of rum once.
Really?
Yeah, we used to teach advanced distilling courses at our place. We've done 6 of them. We don't do them anymore because they shut us down for 2 weeks of prep, right? But at one of the courses, I had a student that asked, could we do a rum batch during the course? And I happened to have like the preeminent expert on rum in the course, or
wow.
teaching at the course at the time.
Yeah.
And we almost did it, but the request was just too late. Like just by a couple days, I couldn't do it. So that's one, but I might do a single batch rum for sure.
Yeah.
And that's in our capability. We can put it on the Uncharted series, no sweat.
Yeah.
But I always tell people when they ask why we don't do rum is because agave and rum are super close cousins. And agave is my thing, right?
Yeah,
So it'd kind of be like kissing my sister to make a rum, because what I do is agave, right?
Yeah.
The difference between rum and agave, though, is there's very little diversity in tequila specifically. There's a ton of diversity in rum,
Yes.
which I really
there is.
respect.
Yeah.
And we've actually taken a lot of rum techniques and secrets that we apply to our agave spirits. So for me, I just, it's another sugar source, right? You're using cane or agave, but there's sugar
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
That's why I think you could pull it off. Because
I think what you're saying too is that you're uncomfortable with like kissing your sister, but what about kissing like your cousin? If you could somehow
like I
come
said,
up with a way to get that done.
I
your
almost-
step cousin.
I almost-
Second cousin.
I almost made a batch of rum once. I almost
Yeah,
did.
you were
very,
so
very close.
Okay.
But I do have a resource in the industry. He's from St. John, Virgin Islands. He is like crazy brilliant.
You're a rum guy. I love that
he's
you
my
have a
rum guy.
rum
He's
got a rum guy.
I got a rum guy.
Ugh.
So someday
We need a rum guy.
So
there will
I'll-
be a
I'll name
Banyan
it-
rum at some point.
I'll
I
name
think
it-
that's the goal. It really is.
Yeah.
we'll name
I
it
do-
our Brandon Run. The R's for rum, right?
We're gonna do a
100%.
We're gonna do a Banyan rum. I wish the R. Yes, the R's for rum.
the R's
It's
for
not,
rum.
but it is now.
I'm going to use that.
Yep, it never was, but it is now.
That's your contract job
rum.
right there.
Yeah, that 100%. I think Banyan rum is the move. The problem is my rum is frat boy rum, because I'm a Captain Morgan guy.
You'd have to take a lot
so-
of rum courses. You'd have to do some.
And I've tried like rums that are like high end rums.
Yeah.
I'm like, these are crap. Like, but it's only because they're so strong. They're typically pretty stout
Oh, yeah.
rums.
Yeah.
The good ones,
like a
are.
mezcal.
Like,
yeah.
yeah. And so the case just brought me one from South America somewhere, and I was like, let me try it. Oh man, and it's rated really high. It's a good rum. It's like this big of a bottle, and it probably cost him a fortune. But I can drink the frat boy rum all day long, and I think that's what Banyan would prefer, like a spiced rum. But you could probably sweeten it with an agave.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Typically, you back sugar is what it's called with the source raw material. So, like a sweetened agave is sweetened with agave, right? A sweetened rum is sweetened with sugar.
Even a white rum or a coconut rum, it's
sweetened
sugar.
with the source raw material that was used to make the alcohol. Yeah. So you could do that. That'd be weird. I got some super crazy whiskey ideas.
Whiskeys
that have to do with agave and corn.
I don't even know if there's rules in whiskey anymore. I mean, there's
so many rules. It's insane.
Really?
Oh yeah, whiskey's super hard from a rules perspective. Yeah.
Is there any talks, any plans of a new bottle, and not just a temporary, but a new product from you?
We're always tweaking. The biggest request I get here in Utah is for another liqueur, believe it or not.
I can see that.
Because here in Utah, the rules for making cocktails, 1.5 ounces of the base spirit, 1 ounce of sweetening, right?
Yeah.
Or flavor. And that's what a liqueur is considered.
Oh, and your
flavoring.
liqueur is a high percentage.
And that's why it's like a great add in a cocktail here in Utah. So I get that request all the time, but I'm always looking at like some crazy one-off things.
Yeah, of course.
Experimenting.
I would hope you would. We were talking about that before with the books, where you can't do the same thing every day.
That's my favorite day is when you're making something for the first time.
Yeah,
that's my favorite day.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
Thanks for joining us, Chris. I learned so much every time. Adrian, any questions for Chris?
No, I actually had a couple, but as he went, he answered them.
He answered them.
Oh, well done.
After I blew your book question, so
2 books. You had 50% chance.
I was 50-50, and I nosedived.
Oh my God, that's so funny. Well, I'm glad you made it into the world of distilling, Chris.
Ogden appreciates what you do.
100%.
You come up in conversation constantly in town.
Well,
you put together a really good product and a good visit. People love going out to say hi out there.
Yeah, thanks.
Take your tour.
And we're all about Ogden. Ogden Valley is an extension of Ogden.
Of course.
We raise our kids in Ogden, so we are like totally loyal Ogdenites. I mean, Ogden is like everything in our life, right? My daughter was Miss Ogden. She has Ogden tattooed on her foot. So, we are 100% about Ogden for sure. Even though we're over the hill, we're definitely 100%.
That's not an age joke, by the way. That's a geographic joke.
Over the hill?
Yeah, over the hill.
Yeah. That's not an age joke. That's definitely a geographic joke.
Yeah. It's funny because it's like some people just forget that there's a place up there called Eden that you can actually go to, and it's not that far away, people.
It's not far at all.
Go visit New World Distillery and take a tour. Can you sign up day of, or how do you sign up for the tours, actually?
It's on our website. Just go to newworlddistillery.com. There's a tour page with the link to our schedule. Like I said, the schedule changes constantly.
Okay.
Because we do offsite events and private tours and all those kind of things, but it's up to date. Typically, many months in advance.
Awesome.
Well, we also appreciate your partnerships with Oka, so keep those coming.
We'd love that.
I know that I always pop over for cocktail of the night and some beehive cheese. And I'm a happy boy. So
like I said, art and animals.
That's what
those are kind of what we gravitate to.
Well, I appreciate the support.
Thanks. We love them too.
Did you have anything, Todd?
Quick heads up that we have 2 brand new exhibitions at Finch Lane Gallery, so come check us out. A group show that is curated by Joseph Ostraff, and then a solo show of amazing photography. I think I told you last time 2 years of photos that were taken as on the job from a mail carrier. So very cool.
Yeah.
His name is Simon Zivney, and so we had a very good opening reception this past Friday, and so come check it out. It'll be up for the next 6 weeks.
Awesome. We have Chris from New World and Adrian, author, Locust Eaters. You can find his work at adrianstump.com. I want to say thank you to Banyan One, that's this trailer right here, for powering today's episode of the Ogden Arts and Adventure Show. Listen and subscribe to Ogden Arts and Adventure on YouTube. You can see our wonderful, beautiful faces on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, if you're just audio only, and thebanyancollective.com. If you want to be on the program, you can DM me personally. Slip into my DMs. I will not be offended. It's worked in the past. It's at Ogden Adventure. Todd loves it when that happens. So If you found value in this podcast,
And if you bring alcohol, you might go towards the top
you
of
know
that
what?
list. I'm just
show
saying.
up weekly. That's all I'm saying. Just be
Just
here.
come here every week.
every Tuesday.
See, and this is what I'm telling you, because Tuesdays from 6 to 7,
Yep.
if you were out here as a live audience, this is a private space right
This is
here.
it. This is it.
You're
You come
missing
hang
out. So come
we
hang out
have
with us.
beer.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have liquor. So,
Sometimes,
you know.
I'm just saying, yeah.
Actually, it looks
you
like
just
quite
never
often.
know.
Shh, the ABC.
The cameras are focused on that.
I
Private liquors. Private
got that,
liquors.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Oh my
Proud of
gosh.
that. Proud of
If you found value in this podcast, you know what? You can just give us all your money. Consider supporting us at buymeacoffee.com/banyanmedia. It's essentially like our Patreon. You just sign up and it takes.
If you need more, Brandon will send you pictures of his feet, but you don't want to do that.
I don't know if I do that.
You
That's
don't
kind of a
wanna
lot.
do
That's like $30. It's like- This week's outdoor jukebox is this song was the best of Boy in Blue last week that we released 2 weeks ago actually, that we released on Van Sessions. It is Bottle of Broken Cheers as recorded on Van Sessions at the Monarch. I think this is in July. We'll see you next week on the Ogden Arts and Adventure Show.
I was never here. You never saw me. I was always there. You never showed me. You never asked me how I was doing. And now we're all grown. We're grown into what we've lost to. We're all lost and found. Down by the roads that kept us here. So what do we have here? Bottle of broken cheese. Someone must have all the answers to get up, find the right ones to die for, so slow down. No one has all the answers. Just wait for the right one to follow you out that door. I'm sick of expecting more. Give it to me, presto. You never liked my song, the one I wrote about you. You never sang along at all the shows you came to. But let's just be honest, I never made you promise. When were we ever happily ever after? tear. You never saw me, and all of our tears fill up our bottle of broken cheers.
Boy in Blue on Van Session.